And we're live. Woohoo! Welcome to the Kratom Quitters There Is a Way Out podcast live stream. This is episode 4, and today we are going to be talking about PAWS, Post-Acute Withdrawal Syndrome, which is the phase that comes after the withdrawals, your more acute withdrawals, I should say, the process after that where you may feel some lingering symptoms. Those symptoms can vary. We're going to discuss all of that. So if it's your first time joining us, kratomquitters.com. We have daily meetings 3 times a day. In fact, we have a signal chat where we provide peer support as well. And we have just an amazing community of people that are quitting Kratom, any type of Kratom products, 7.0. Yeah, just anyone that needs support from the gas station goodies. So we'll go ahead and introduce our guests here today. Let's start off with Hillary. How's it going?
Hey, Mike. I'm glad to be here. My name's Hillary. I've been in Kratom recovery for quite a while now. And yeah, are we just introducing ourselves? Is that what we're doing?
Yep.
So I am the vice president and co-founder of this organization. And it's my first live stream, so I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Hillary. Decima, speaking of presidents and vice presidents.
Sorry, I have to learn how to unmute myself there. Hey, you guys, it's Decima. Yeah, I'm the president and founder of the Quitting Kratom Support Organization. I have 6 months. Today, I hit 2.5 years Kratom free. I'm from the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and I'm super happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Decima. Devin.
Hey, how's it going, Mike? Thanks for having me here again. My name is Devin, and I'm from Massachusetts, and I'm in recovery from kratom addiction for the last 72 days. And I can't wait to go on and talk about this phase of the recovery process.
Absolutely. Thank you, Devin. And Jenna.
Hey, Mike. Happy to be here. Jenna, I'm in Florida. I have been in recovery from 7.0H for 82 days now. I joined this community about 3 months ago, and I'm super excited to be here again.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, this is going to be an episode that I think provides some information for a lot of people because the post-acute withdrawals with Kratom is very different, in my experience, from really any other substance out there. They can linger on for quite a long time, and it's just a big part of this recovery community is that ongoing support throughout sort of this phase, the post-acute withdrawal phase, where I think people really lean in extra hard going through the ups and downs. So yeah, first of all, let's talk about what post-acute withdrawals are. So essentially, it's kind of the lingering mental and emotional, physical symptoms after you quit and get through that initial acute withdrawal phase. It's not really an ongoing withdrawal. It's more of your brain chemistry kind of recalibrating. So it's a big part of kind of getting the motivation back, getting a lot of those things back, and it can kind of come in waves. That's a big thing that we notice people saying, and things that, I think a lot of us have experienced, is that, one day can feel like you're doing great, and then the next day you feel like you're back to square one. And that's one of the things I think that gets really frustrating for people that they want to get better and they feel like they're getting better, and then it's kind of a setback. So I think that's a big reason why it's important for this community and for us to talk about it. So yeah, does anyone want to jump in and kind of talk a little bit more about, some of their perspective on the post-acutes?
Yeah, I can talk about it because the first time that I ever quit Kratom, so I have used both 7.0 and Kratom. However, the worst post-acute withdrawal syndrome that I have ever gotten is from Kratom by itself. I was using upwards of 50 grams per day at my highest back in the early 2020s. And I didn't have this community. I didn't know anything about kratom withdrawal or opioid withdrawal in general. And so what really surprised me and what really made it difficult to stay off of kratom was the post-acute withdrawal syndrome. I would make it like 6 weeks at a time, and then I would relapse because I was so depressed. And I wasn't really putting it together. I was kind of blaming myself and beating myself up for that and saying like, man, I really need to get my mental health in check to be able to stay off of this. But I did not want to, or rather I didn't know that, you know, it was actually causing it. So that was a significant roadblock for my recovery for sure.
Yeah, and for for me as well, you know, the acute phase is obviously, at least in my opinion, is the worst physically because you know you have all the classic symptoms that you would hear of, you know, or see in the movies. But the you know the post acutes are a bit different. For me, it's more mental. Like I've always suffered from depression, but in this phase of recovery, it's been almost crippling at times where I will, you know, almost go nonverbal and, you know, sort of self-isolate even in my house and from the community, which is not good. And I think that's like the most challenging part, and also how long it lasts. I've heard a lot of people in the community say that they've come up with other similar type of drugs, and after a week or two, they're sort of, you know, quote unquote back to normal. But you know, with this, I'm almost 3 months into it, and I'm still going through it, and it's getting better. It absolutely does get better, but it can be discouraging for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the timeline is a thing that's really interesting for people because, like you said, weeks 2 through 5 is kind of where you have that first maybe pink cloud for some people. I think tends to kind of be in that sort of area, and then the 1 to 3 after that, you can kind of hit that lull where it's like, okay, now I feel like I'm back below where I was. But when you hear people saying, it does get better and it gradually fades away, a lot of people say, 6 months, they started to feel a lot more like themselves. But it is just, it's different for everyone, and it is up and down.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad that you mentioned the timeline thing and how it is different for everybody, because I did have, like, I experienced PAWS for sure, but my timeline, I believe, was different than the average timeline. And I don't know if it's because I used Vivitrol for 19 months or not, but I did. And I feel like I actually describe my pink cloud as an endless one. I feel like I was on that pink cloud for like a year. I did go through a rough spot at about 18 months to 2 years in, where life was just really blase, like Groundhog's Day. What's the point? Where's the feel good again? Just really like having to dig deep and push through and keep doing all the things, working my recovery, even though it wasn't that pink cloud that I often found myself missing. It was really strange. Like in this space, we see people, they quit and they're on that pink cloud and they're all excited. And it's like, dang, I miss that sometimes, but it does kind of level out. It becomes more sustainable. What I really love is the analogy that we use here a lot about the tornado. It's like if a tornado comes through your home and destroys everything, and once it's gone, you're just so happy that you're still there and alive and existing, but you have all of this mess to clean up, and once that realization and reality sets in, it can be challenging. So yeah, my timeline was different, I think, but I definitely did experience that pause.
I think also in early recovery, so I don't have a history of substance use prior to my 7-OH addiction, and I think there's so much focus on the acute withdrawal, especially in the beginning, because that part seems to be like the scariest and the most intense, that the PAWS really blindsided me like over and over and over again, especially within the first 60 days. And I think that I mean, I hear it in the community, I see it in the chats, I've experienced it myself, that it's so discouraging because you can feel it does come in waves, and it's like cycles. It cycles. You're going to have like a really great day, or maybe even 2 days. And then the next day you literally feel like your brain is completely broken. And it's just, you get into this thought process or this feeling like it's never going to end. Like that feeling is never going to end. And that constant roller coaster can get really tiring. And so I think, you know, understanding why it's happening in our brains is so, like, for me anyway, being able to understand the science of it helps me to feel like it's not just I'm broken, right? Like kratom withdrawal and the pause that comes from it, it does such a number on all various brain receptors, that it's like you cannot fault yourself for it. And so I think that there's a lot of value in trying to understand what your brain is really doing and how it's repairing. I had read a really cool analogy like recently that said it's like treating a sprained ankle. You know, everything is tender. Every little bit of stress, every little bit of pain feels magnified, because of what our brain is going through in terms of recalibrating and trying to heal itself. And so I think there's a lot of truth in trying to hold on to that, and you know, kind of being gentle on yourself, like within that time period, and understanding that it's going to take, you know, a different amount of time for everybody.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jenna, about the science of like what is actually happening to our brain, because something that's different about kratom that I feel like is not maybe common knowledge is it's not just the dopamine that's being affected. It's not just the opioid receptors. It has a lot of serotonin activity in there. And so that plays into that severe anhedonia that you can get from kratom. But although PAWS is super discouraging, there are different ways that you can mitigate that and make it to be a lot less severe, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point.
We will indeed. We'll definitely get to some ways that you can help improve the pause and hopefully alleviate some of that. Some really great analogy with the sprained ankle. And yeah, you just want to get better, and you can feel it. You're like getting so close, but then it can be that sort of death by 1,000 paper cuts, where in the acutes it's very intense. You know, it's very much, you kind of feel like you're in that fight or flight response. And then once that's gone, it's so relieving, that you get that kind of like rebound where you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. But then all of a sudden you kind of flatline, and you're like Hillary mentioned, anhedonia, a word that I wish I never knew, but is all too common in this space of the anhedonia, which is just that just general blah feeling. Nothing excites you, nothing makes you feel anything, and you almost get to a stage where you just want to feel something. And that's where, you know, it can be really tricky, and why this community is so important, so that you have people to tell you, hey, you know, this isn't going to last forever. You've made it through the hard part, and you can keep pushing. So, yeah, so let's talk about some of the common PAWS symptoms. I know there's a bunch of different ones, but if anyone wants to kind of share their experience, what symptoms they had, and maybe, you know, so the experience with that.
So for me, I had low energy. I had just kind of this existential angst a lot, where it was a lot of what, why, like just too deep, too deep. I had a lot of cravings during the pause period, not a lot, but more cravings than usual. But for me, it was mostly low energy, a little bit of depression, just kind of having to push through that fog, that mental fog, you know, and like, yeah, that was the main thing for me.
Similar to Decima, the biggest symptom for me was that anhedonia, which literally translates to an inability to feel pleasure. So for for my worst PAWS experience, it took about 90 days for it to lift and feel better. But during those, I don't know, 20 to 90 days, literally 70 days, I was crying every single day. Like I would wake up in the morning and start crying. I was crying at work. So for me, it wasn't really like a flatness. It was more of like an emotional sadness, depression, combined with a lack of motivation to do the simplest things. I struggled to shower a lot. I would go to work so dirty, like not shower for 4 days, not even caring. Because I just didn't have the energy to care about that stuff. I didn't really eat that much. Relapse was very common for that stage because, like someone else mentioned, you just want to feel something. It's hard to go that long and to have faith and know that it's going to get better. And so I had a complete lack of faith. I'm a very spiritual person. I was not able to access that side of myself though. And so really for me, the biggest symptoms were that emotional sadness, the crying spells, and the inability to just take care of myself.
Yeah, the emotions really. Oh, go ahead, Jenna.
Sorry, Mike. I was going to say, playing off of what Decima and Hillary have already said in the beginning, you know, more in like the 30 to 45 day range. It was a lot of just like full body exhaustion, mental exhaustion, not being able to get out of bed, not being able to take care of myself. I think as I'm approaching 90 days, it's feeling a bit different. I'm still, one of the biggest symptoms that I continue to struggle with is kind of like emotional intensity and irritability. That's sort of what I was touching on with the sprained ankle, is that I think our stress tolerance in general is so low during PAWS. And so it seems like every little thing can send me into an emotional swing, and I can go from, you know, angry and crying to feeling completely flat within the same day. And I think that has been really difficult to adjust to. And, you know, I think it should be said that the symptoms do, you know, the time between your symptoms does stretch. Like I've noticed a big difference between 30 days and 90 days, you know, so like they're still existing and maybe they're evolving, but I do feel longer stretches of time between feeling those things. But yeah, definitely irritability and a lot of emotional intensity.
Yeah, the up and down of feeling a little bit better, then kind of falling back down, and like you said, the intensity of it is, or the frequency of it is kind of what I noticed would stretch further. Like you said, you'd have more good days than bad, you know, and then maybe have a week where it's like, oh man, this week is just like I have nothing in the tank. The feeling disconnected from yourself was one that I definitely experienced. Being overwhelmed by small tasks, you know, like you guys mentioned, knowing that a shower is going to help me feel better, but just not having the ability to even muster the strength and just, and you know, you try to, you know, for me, like drink a little bit of caffeine to get some energy, and then you notice the anxiety spikes, and then it's, you know, you're kind of like trying to just level everything out, which is what your body's doing, right? It's readjusting to all of these receptors being flooded for so long, and now it's just like, what do I do with myself? You know, the solution for everything I had before is gone, so you figure out some new ways to deal with it.
That makes me think of during the times I was going through PAWS, I would try to self-medicate it. Like if I wanted to use something, I would use something else to say that I'm still not taking Kratom, but I would drink, or I don't just smoke marijuana, or, you know, as an attempt to try to balance my brain and to feel something. But every single time, no matter what it was, it just made it worse. Whenever it was done, it just came back 10 times worse, because that's how delicate our brains are during that phase. And so it's really important to just stick through it and take, you know, whatever supplements you might be taking to help. But yeah, using other substances, tried and done that, and it didn't work.
Well, that's the danger, right, of PAWS, that we don't want to feel that. So that's the bottom line right there. We're in danger of relapse, not just on Kratom, but other substances as well, you know. So I'm glad we're here to talk about it today for that reason.
It is a time where we're extra vulnerable because we do start to feel better, and you can sometimes lose sight of how bad the acutes were. And that's when the brain will start doing tricks and saying, well, we can do it one time, just feel a little bit better today, and then tomorrow we'll start again. And anybody that's tried that approach, I think we all know where that leads. It's never good. So that's, yeah, definitely why having this community is great, is because, especially with the Signal chat, and just having a place to have a sounding board and connect with people, and to hear that it's not permanent. I don't know how many times I've heard people come in and say, I think I did permanent damage to myself. And just to be reassured that, you're just healing. Like, for most of us, again, this is not medical advice. We're not medical professionals, but for most people, you're going to heal your brain and hopefully come back even stronger in the end, because when you build up that sobriety, it starts to build up all those other, processes, and, ability to handle emotions, emotional sobriety. We're able to build so much more and stack so many more things on top of the fact that we're just being sober. We're not just white knuckling it. We're building on that. So, the digestive issues definitely can linger. Insomnia can return randomly. Brain fog. We talked about the depression and emotional flatness. Again, having an appetite can be something that, fluctuates for people. I've also noticed everyone kind of seems to be different, but depending on whether you were the type of person that when you used Kratom, it made you eat more, or on the other end of the spectrum, a lot of people said, I ate less. I didn't eat when I was taking Kratom. And I've noticed that when quitting Kratom, whatever your baseline is, kind of wherever you need to adjust in that sort of like healthy eating, I've noticed that is something that comes back eventually, but can be a bit of a process as well. I know for me personally, when I quit, there weren't enough sweets in the world. It's all I wanted was sugar. And it took a little while for some of that to kind of balance out. So know that all of that is normal. All right. Did anyone else have anything on the symptoms, or we good to move on to sort of our next discussion on PAWS? All right. Why PAWS happens. So this is just kind of a quick overview of the why. Kratom and 7-0, basically they're overstimulating your opioid receptors. And as Hillary mentioned, also there's serotonin involved. There's a bunch of different receptors that are being sort of bombarded with these substances. And essentially our brain down regulates our natural endorphins and dopamine and everything, and is trying to find that new baseline, right? Because it hasn't needed to produce these chemicals because we're just flooding our brain with it. And basically the post-acutes is kind of that repair process. So, if I think you mentioned Decima, it's kind of the after the storm, right? Like if the withdrawals is the storm, the PAWS is picking up the mess after. And it's a slower process, but it's really where the real healing comes in. So, Hillary.
Something unique about Kratom too is the amount of alkaloids it has within it. And so while we do know a lot more about how Kratom and 7-0 affects the brain, there is still so much that we do not know, just because of how diverse Kratom itself is, and who knows what's in 7-0 as well, because none of it's regulated. And something else that I think is worth mentioning is the amount of salmonella poisonings that people have had from ingesting Kratom. And so it's just another withdrawal symptom that you can have from that. And so I just wanted to point out the fact that Kratom is, I don't know how else to say this, it's dirty to me. It has all these different things inside of it that's untested and under-researched. And so that's why it's important to bring advocacy to this, because we need to know exactly what is going on in our bodies and brains when we take this stuff.
Yeah, like just to add on to what Hillary was saying was like in Kratom, I've heard rumors of there being trace amounts of other drugs in it that, you know, I wouldn't know what I'm taking. It's just for me, it was just crushed up leaves, you know. Heavy metals have been reported to be found in it, and that in general, just heavy metals alone can really mess up you know, brain chemistry and all that too. And at least in my opinion, I think another reason why it happens too is because, you know, on the emotional side of things, you spend years basically numbing your emotions and running away from your emotions with the drugs. And then when you take that away, all of a sudden your brain is recalibrating for all the chemical imbalances, but then also just like the, you know, you start to feel again. And like that sort of, at least for me, trips me up.
Yeah, Devin, that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like life just be lifing again, you know, and like all the sciencey stuff that happens in our brains, we just have to also get back to just the day-to-day boringness that is life, and also waiting for our bodies to heal and to get healthy again. But yeah, just adjusting to being that new person, that can be draining emotionally and mentally, and just working that recovery also. If we're in here really working recovery, that can be exhausting because it's a lot of work. Some days you're just like, can I just not fucking make an amends or look at a character flaw today, you know? But yeah, it can get, it's all of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that the fact that the feeling that you get taking Kratom is so unnatural, and that euphoria, you know, no matter what a good euphoria or a dopamine hit you get from working out or from good food or from sex or from anything like that, there's nothing that does the same thing, right? And that's the thing that I know as an addict I've always chased. And so when you get sober and that's gone, and you sort of have to make, you know, we've talked about it like it's almost like a bad ex, you know. You can remember, you know, romanticize and remember all the good times and how good I felt, but we block out the part where it's like, oh wait, that was an abusive relationship with a horrible devil plant, and I never want to go back.
Yeah, and taking Kratom for a long amount of time, especially high doses. I know for me, a part of my post-acute withdrawal syndrome was the fact that I woke up to a life that I didn't really want or I wasn't really happy with. And so that was an unintended consequence of my Kratom uses, because I used for years. And so when that was lifted, I was like, oh my God, I don't like my job. I don't like my partner. I ended up moving out of state and completely overhauling my life, which is work too. And I'm grateful for where I'm at now. But, you know, my Kratom use was so severe that it's such a strong substance that it just completely masks everything and anything from your life. And so that's something else I never expected.
Yeah, I think that we kind of get caught in this trap of thinking that we're supposed to feel amazing all the time when we're using substances. And, you know, because we fed our brains this, you know, unnatural thing. And so then coming out of it is like a complete wake up call, like you guys said. And similar to like what Hillary said, like, you know, you make all these decisions or these life choices while you're on Kratom or whatever, you know, 7-OH, you know, all of it. And then you have to deal with the discomfort of facing that in sobriety. And there is a lot of discomfort, you know, in PAWS, not just physically, but in the awareness, right? Like there's like this clarity, there's this awareness that comes with sobriety. And there's so much discomfort in it, but then there's so much growth in it too. So it's kind of like a balance, you know, as you're rewiring your brain.
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head there with picking up the pieces after we get sober and looking at our life and saying, oh, crap, what have I been doing? This isn't the person that I want to be. You know, the real version of me has these completely other goals and things that I want to do. And I've just been, getting by, skating by in fight or flight. And I know that for many people, the financial part is a huge part of it, because all of a sudden you have to face the fact that I just spent all this money and I have nothing to show for it except for a crippling addiction. And picking up the financial pieces and also relationship costs. A lot of us maybe had a partner that wasn't in the know, or there was secrets and things like that we have to face, and that can be a really tough, raw emotion to feel, the guilt and shame sober. And now again, we're in a place where we're not alone with that. There's many people that have had that same story. And while it doesn't make it any easier to look at your credit card bill knowing that, well, I'm not the only one, but it does help to know that, there's people that have dug themselves back out, those people that have the app that tracks how much money they've saved. And I see people with, 90 days sober and they've saved $7,000. It's just like, wow, that's a pretty huge net benefit to your life. So, yeah.
One thing I wanted just really quick to mention that kind of came to me when you were talking is that I think PAWS kind of creates this perfect storm, because all of those feelings of shame and guilt are coming up, and all this clarity and all this awareness and all of this, like, oh shit, what did I do, right? Or, what am I going to do now? But then it's literally coupled with the anhedonia, the depression, the fatigue, so like they're sitting side by side with each other. And so there's just like this, it creates a really big inner conflict with like, I need to address my life. I have all this shame and this guilt and I want to take care of it, or there's things I need to do. And there's people that I need to reconnect with, or there's, whatever it is. But then you just like, you physically can't. Like, right, like your brain is so offline still in a lot of ways, and your body is still needing rest and repair. And so it's like this constant war with yourself. And so I think that that's kind of unique, especially like within the first, I mean, I don't know, because I'm only, I'm just under 90 days. And so, but I've heard, that this can continue on progressively for a long time.
To piggyback off what Hillary was saying also is, a different situation, obviously, but, I came out of it and I don't really enjoy where I'm at in life. Not so much like, with relationships or anything, but career wise, I've been in sales for basically my entire career in the same industry. And now I look and I go, do I really want to do that still? And I'm looking for a job now, and it's part of it is, obviously the job market sucks, but part of it is like, what do I want to do? Do I want to go back and do that? Can I go back and do that? I did it so long with Kratom, and part of the reason why I did this because I have ADHD, and Kratom, at least in my mind, helped with some of those symptoms. So yeah, waking up sort of and realizing, hey, I'm not exactly where I want to be is challenging.
Another part of PAWS too that came to me when you were speaking, Devin, is coming to terms with, or rather rebuilding the belief that I could do life without Kratom, because for so many years I thought that I absolutely needed my Kratom. I used to call it my medicine. And so you have to figure out, how do I cope with life and succeed and achieve my goals and all that stuff without my medicine, or my life hack is what I used to call it as well. And so that's difficult. That's difficult to come to terms with when you've been using for so long.
Yeah, it's like, surprise, it's the consequences of my actions. And some of us had a lot of them. And for some of us, it's taking a long time to resolve these issues that we created for ourselves. And not only that, another part of that is also, when we are using, we aren't really our true selves. We're the substance. And so, especially if you spend a long time using, I spent 9 years on Kratom plus many years before that on other substances. So it's like once you become sober and get into your recovery, you're trying to learn who you are, not just, who you were, but who you actually are, and coming to terms with that and what you do now want to spend your time and your money on while picking up the pieces and making those adjustments with your job, with your finances, with your relationships. Some of us have all of those things that we're, fixing. But yeah, I feel like we're making it sound a lot of doom and gloom, and I don't really want to come across like that. I think it's more important that you guys know that this is all normal. This is all normal, and I'm really excited to get to talking about how we get through this.
Absolutely. That is a great segue, Decima. I appreciate it because it is not all doom and gloom. There are a lot of amazing habits that we build and things that we put in place to help us with the PAWS that are just a net benefit to our life. And I think that really a lot of us are learning how to be a sober adult for the first time for a lot of us. Not everybody, but for a lot of us, this is the first time of real true sobriety, and you're learning how to cope with all of these things in new ways, which are at first can be scary and overwhelming. But as you get into it, I think that a lot of us really find that we have so much joy in these little things that we start to say, wow, I can feel better by going for a walk, or I can feel better by eating a good meal. So yeah, let's touch on some of the tools that we use to get through the PAWS and things we've learned to help people that are dealing with it.
So yeah, definitely a lot of these things are, like you said, they're new for us. We were neglecting these things, and a lot of them are just basic life things, right? So for me, it was water, water, water. You guys are going to hear me talk about water because I feel like Kratom dehydrated me really bad. It destroyed my skin. So I'm a big advocate of water. It did help me feel better. It gives me energy. Exercise, even if it's just a walk with the dog, routine. That is so important to me even now. Routine is something I didn't have before. I let the drug, the substance, Kratom, control what I did and when I did it. But now I control that. I have a routine, and it's so good for me. Vitamins, I take my vitamins. There are some supplements and stuff that do actually help. I'm not going to be specific, but check out our website. We have some of them on there. But taking those supplements regularly in the early days, I feel helped me a lot. Trying to eat the best I can. Sometimes that's hard because we like to get that dopamine from the junk food. But yeah, if we can eat better, I always feel better when I eat better. Mindfulness, spirituality. Hillary talked about some of this stuff earlier, getting in touch with our higher power, working recovery, peer support, being here in these meetings. I could go on and on, but I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to leave some for some of you guys.
I love it, Decima. I love the many different ways we can support ourselves through PAWS. I was going to say very similar things. Supplements for me were a big part of my most recent PAWS episode I had. The first time I ever went through it, I didn't have community, and I didn't know that there were things that could actually help me. And so definitely go to our webpage, kratomquitters.com. We have a whole list of supplements that you can research and see what's best for you. But routine is so important because it takes away the energy that you have to use to plan and to think and to do those things. And so and interestingly enough, the things that might be the best for you in post-acute withdrawal are going to feel counterintuitive. So the last thing that I wanted to do was to go to the gym. But that's what I did because I needed to fill the void of after work, of I can't use. So what do? I don't want to stay here. I would go to the gym. And during that pause phase, I was in really like the best shape of my life. I really want to go back to that. And so exercise really helps, and just finding different ways to cope and maintain, and go to meetings and say, hey, I'm struggling. Hey, I'm depressed today. Even just, getting it out there is a major help too.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of that counterintuitive nature with PAWS, one thing I'm learning as I approach 90 days is that there's a lot of value in opposite action for me. And it's really helping me to move through some of the symptoms of PAWS that I'm having. And it is uncomfortable, and it is absolutely counterintuitive to what my body would like me to do, which is to do nothing. And so there's so much value in it because it's rewiring everything. Every time you do something that you feel like you couldn't do, I don't know, it just like files it away for you. Your brain files it away, and you remember it, and you build on it for the next time. And I'm living that experience right now. And so I know that it works. It's just kind of getting the initiative and the momentum going to do it. I think that's the hardest part in PAWS. But one other thing I wanted to mention, that on a very biological level, nervous system regulation is probably really at the core for PAWS, because we can't ignore that it's an actual, we're having a biological response, a neuro response to what's going on with the withdrawal. And so nervous system regulation is huge. And there's so many ways that you can do that. I mean, and there's a lot of talk about it in this community, breath work, meditation, mindfulness, like Decima had mentioned, even temperature, cold plunging, music, dancing, singing. A lot of nervous system regulation is going to help you to move through the PAWS symptoms, and really kind of help you to reclaim some agency over your body, which I think is really huge in recovery. So, yeah.
I'm really glad that you mentioned music, because that's number one on my list is music. Music has always helped me in life through everything. But one thing that's actually kind of cool about the recovery process is you actually hear music differently when you're off of drugs. I remember the first time I had goosebumps while listening to a song, and it was like, oh my God, that's crazy. I haven't felt that in so long. And the other thing too, especially with music, is novelty with music. And what I mean by that is, Decima had shared a few songs in one of our group chats by was it Tori Amos. And I had heard the name a million times, of course, who hasn't, but I'd never actually listened to any of her music. And so I listened to a few of the songs that she had shared, and then I listened to a few more, and then a few more. And I actually found a couple that I really enjoy. And so finding, new types of music, or even going back and listening to music that I used to listen to and finding new meaning in it is helpful for me. Also being open with the people around you. If you have a partner, just being open and honest about how you're feeling. Hey, I feel depressed today, and here's why, and just talking through it, or coming to the group, just staying connected with people who you care about and who care about you. And also reading, believe it or not, reading has helped me. Reading is something that I love to do. I used to do it a lot more when I wasn't taking kratom. When I say a lot more, I mean I read the book It in 4 days, which is which is ridiculous. But going back and actually sitting down and reading again has helped a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people wonder if they're going to enjoy their hobbies again, especially if you did your hobbies while you were high on kratom. For me, I did a lot of my hobbies, and then as often happens, it slowly became less and less enjoyable until I wasn't even doing my hobbies anymore. And yeah, that's one of those things that I worried about. Will I enjoy doing the things that I love ever again? And I used to tell people and myself, just do it. Just do it. As soon as you do it, you're going to see that you love it. If it's something that you love, it didn't go away. It's still there. As soon as I got on my motorcycle and felt that wind, it was back instantly. And then it's like, okay, I want to do it again. So I say, if there's something that you haven't been doing that is a hobby that you love, just fucking do it. I promise you're going to love it.
Yeah, the number of people that have come in that are musicians or just music, aficionados, people that love to listen to music, and then it's so universal that we lose that, we lose that connection to music, and it becomes less and less a part of our life. And then when we get sober, that first time, like you said, that you get goosebumps, or you listen to a song that just makes you burst into tears or brings you back to a moment that you remember when you were younger, really hits in a level that doesn't really happen at all when we're numbed out on kratom. And so that can be a really amazing experience for a lot of people the first time they listen to music again, or belly laugh at a movie, or like Decima said, riding your motorcycle or playing a sports activity or going to the gym. We learn all of a sudden that life can be so much more meaningful when we really actually have to work a little bit more and dig a little bit deeper, because the payoff is so much greater. So yeah, that's a lot of really good stuff. Couple things that I had jotted down as far as tools for dealing with PAWS: stabilizing your routine. That's a big one. Waking up consistently, eating meals consistently, and moving your body consistently. Not fighting the dips. Label it. Say, this is PAWS. This is normal. I'm going to ride the wave, and it will pass. And we can kind of learn to ride that up and down roller coaster. Supplements have been mentioned. Like we said, go to kratomquitters.com. There's a resources tab and a link to supplement lists there. There's a whole bunch of different ones. Everyone's different. Please consult your doctor. This is not medical advice. Couple other things: reducing stimulation. Too much caffeine, too much sugar, too much scrolling. Those are all things that can definitely contribute to PAWS. Especially, I'll just speak personally, scrolling. That is a thing that I got so locked into feeling bad and sitting on the couch and then just scrolling, and then feeling more stimulated, I guess. Yeah, just like all of a sudden there's 1,000 different things running through my head. I'm not connected with where I'm at, and I'm putting myself outside of my body somewhere, and not dealing with kind of where I need to be just internally. And then also my favorite, building micro habits. That's a big one for me. I can get super overwhelmed by tasks, but if I break it down into, I'm going to clean for 5 minutes, I'm going to stretch for 2 minutes, I'm going to do one meaningful task per day, it's that 1% improvement. And once you get the ball rolling on a lot of those things, I know that, if I say I'm going to clean for 5 minutes, well, once I start cleaning, then it's like, an hour will go by, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, going through junk drawers, and I'm doing this, and I actually am feeling a sense of accomplishment. And I think that that's, again, the biggest part of rebuilding the dopamine receptors, because it is the natural reward system, right? Like, this is what's supposed to happen: is I do something, I check it off my checklist, and then I go, oh, that feels good, I'm proud of myself. And so that's a big one for kind of rebuilding that. And then lastly, like was touched on before, the community, checking in daily with the community. Posting your wins is a huge one. When you hit a milestone and you celebrate with other people in the community, there's really nothing that feels quite like that. And knowing that there's people that are truly, truly proud of you, and really, this isn't just like somebody being like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, 30 days. It's like people understand. Like, they know how hard you have to fight to get those first 30 days. And when you post that in the chat or you say it in a meeting and you see all the people freaking smashing that like button and hitting the hearts, and like, it really fills you with a sense of purpose and of pride that I think is really important. So yeah, using all those community resources, again, I think is a big one. So yeah, does anyone else have any kind of thing that they wanted to mention as far as tools?
Just to touch upon, like completing tasks and all that. I suffer from ADHD, and so I have a hard time with completing tasks or doing things in general. So that's compounded. But I'm trying to work on both at the same time. And like today, and yes, actually for the last 3 days, I've actually been like doing chores and trying to just do things I know I should be doing, and it does feel great. Like I feel great today simply because I was helping my wife around the house, just doing chores. I did a chore that she's been asking me to do for like, I don't know, a year or longer, and so like once I did it, it took me like an hour, and once I did it, I felt great. So like that definitely helps during pause.
Yeah, it's funny, the things that we put off doing, and then all of a sudden we realize, oh, that took me no time at all, and now it's done, and I feel a sense of accomplishment. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so a lot of good stuff there as far as some ways to sort of address the post-acute withdrawals. We're going to go ahead and just go over a couple of questions that people had. If you have any questions in the chat, you're welcome to drop those as well. But I'm just going to go through a couple different things. If anyone has any answers to these questions or feedback, go ahead and pop in. What was the #1 pause symptom that you didn't expect? Anyone have?
For me, it was the complete inability to want to take care of myself. Like I know I already said this, but I'm not someone to like go 4 days without showering and not feeding myself. And so that was the most unexpected thing for me.
For me, it was the emotional side of it, crying a lot, and it's not always like at bad things too, like crying at like happy feelings for the first time was interesting, or like crying at a song for the first time was like holy crap. So yeah.
So for me, it was that I got pause at all. I thought I was in the clear. I really did. I was probably, like I said earlier, well over a year before I finally started having those symptoms. So when they came out of nowhere, I kind of, well, not out of nowhere. It was kind of like a slow thing. And then one day I was just like, I fucking have pause. Damn it. So yeah, I was surprised that I even got it at that point.
I will say for me, I think the non-linear nature of the pause was the thing that really kind of threw me for a loop, because I had, I detoxed from alcohol and opiates and other substances, and they all seem to be a little bit more just kind of like a gradual, just like feeling better, feeling better, feeling better. Whereas Kratom, for whatever reason, like you'll have just those kind of wild dips sometimes where, and I don't know if it's just, the nature of the alkaloids or the fact that it's as accessible as it is, I think, was a hard part for me when I was kind of going through the post-acutes. Just the mental side of like really having to like tell myself like this isn't an option, like you can't go to the store, it's not happening. So yeah, the cravings lasted a decent amount of time, so that was another thing that that I kind of wasn't expecting. Go ahead, Jenna.
I don't know. I think I kind of expected most of the things that we've talked about, so that's why I wasn't really having much to say. But then I was thinking, for me, I had mentioned this earlier, the clarity and the self-awareness piece of it. I think that really blindsided me. I don't think I realized how disconnected I was when I was on 7-OH, like cognitively. I did not realize the depth of like how numb I was, how turned off I was, how, you know, I felt like honestly like disassociated. So I think the clarity and the emotional intensity of things and the self-awareness, or the awareness of just everything around me, it flooded me. It flooded back in at such a rate. I mean, within like the first week I started, you know, even within acutes I was getting it, but especially during PAWS. So I think that one for me has been, was a little bit unexpected for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I can relate with that. All right. What would you say to somebody that is going through post-acute withdrawals right now? What's some advice or some encouragement that you would give to them?
Dig deep. Dig deep. Keep going. It does get better. It's worth it. The little things do help. They really do. When you take a walk, 20 minutes later, you're going to feel better. So just dig deep, keep going, never fucking stop.
And like Decima said earlier, is that this is normal, whatever you're experiencing, even though it feels so weird and abnormal, maybe unexpected, whatever it is normal. And as long as you do not take Kratom, eventually, one day, every second, actually, you are getting closer to the PAWS ending.
Yeah, and similar to what, you know, Decima and Hillary are saying, is just to remember that you are not broken, right? Like you are not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. It may feel like it, and when you're in those moments, when the PAWS is really peaking, it can be very, very hard to hold on to that or to see the light in that. And I think going back to the community piece of it, that's those moments. It's really valuable to be plugged in, because, you know, we're going to remind you that it's temporary and that it is normal and that there's nothing wrong with you. And I think it's just a lot of remembering what Kratom did to our brains, and just reminding yourself that it's going to take time to heal your brain, and it's okay. It's okay to feel like this, even if it's uncomfortable.
Absolutely. All right. Last question here. And this is just kind of generally, you know, how has your life changed now that the PAWS fog has lifted? Or just generally off of Kratom, what were some of the things that you really noticed that improved in your life?
Right away, I would have to say just my emotional availability with my wife. Being able to, you know, sit down and have a deep conversation about, you know, whatever it is, you know, while I was using, I would literally just be like, yep, 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 whatever, and just like wait for my opportunity to speak. Whereas like now I feel as though I'm actively listening. That's one huge one. And the other one is just I'm a little bit more optimistic now, in certain ways, more pessimistic in other ways, but I have a renewed sense of optimism, especially in the last like week or so.
For me, my whole life has changed for the better. Recovering from Kratom has given me meaning and purpose in my life. Before, when I was taking Kratom, Kratom was my God. It was, you know, something I worshiped and my life revolved around. But now that it's not in my body anymore, advocacy for this work and for helping other people who went through the same thing I did, like that, I get goosebumps when I just say things like that. And so meaning and purpose, that is what I have found after Kratom.
I think piggybacking off of what Devin said on the emotional availability, but not for me, I felt that and saw that mostly with my children. My parenting has vastly changed since I've gotten sober. I notice everything. I'm tuned in with my kids. I can be there. I can show up. I have a lot more fun with them, a lot more fun. I'm not just like a passive observer. I was doing the bare minimum parenting when I was on 7OH. That's the reality. So not only am I enjoying it more, but I actually feel good about how I'm showing up for them. And I think that that's really huge. But then also the other biggest thing that kind of just hit me, in the last 82 days that I've been sober is just like getting my humanity back, right? Like my ability to connect with strangers when I'm out, seeing beauty in things. It's just like everything, like every human experience feels heightened and better. And I think that goes back to like what I was saying, where I didn't realize I was so disconnected, but still there's like the ability to connect to and access beauty and joy is so much more attainable in sobriety, and as the pause has been lifted or is lifting.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of what everybody said. Being able to actually show up for others and myself. I'm reliable, which is new for me. Being able to honor and keep my commitments. Like I'm the person that if I say I'm going to do it or I'm going to be there, then now you know that. And I'm really, really proud of that. I'm able to handle my emotions and process those and sit with them instead of being afraid of them and need to hide from them and use to get away from them. Another one, especially particularly, would be my anger, because I've always had anger problems, and Kratom really made that so much worse. And I'm able to manage my anger so much better now. I have patience with myself and my family, my child. And because of that, relationships are getting better. I'm healing like deep wounds, trauma and things that, I've hid from, I've used to hide away from. Healing those really is life-changing. I'm present and tuned in and not just thinking about when my next dose is, so that's big. And also just being a better person. I'm kind, I'm empathetic, I'm giving, I'm of service. These are things that I was not before. Before I was selfish and angry and pissed off at the world and had a chip on my shoulder and just wanted to fight, so it's really healing to be on this side of things.
Absolutely. It is the relationships, the ability to be present with your partner, your kids, your work, the community, and all of those things really is huge. And like Hillary said, having that sense of purpose and that sense of community, people come in and after they get 30 days of sobriety, they start hosting meetings. We have 3 or 4 meetings every single day, 7 days a week. We have an amazing group that volunteers. This is all volunteer led, and our nonprofit is here to support people, support families, support the community, and what you can get out of that being of service to others, I think, is such a huge part of why this community is so amazing, why people feel so connected, and have that sense of purpose. Like you said, Hillary, like it really makes you feel the warm and fuzzies in a good way when you see somebody come in and they get 30 days and they start hosting meetings, and somebody's in one of their meetings. Now they've got 30 days sober and they're starting to host a meeting, and it's, you see people with a year sober now and coming up on 2 years for so. It's just really an amazing thing to see. So I know that having that sense of purpose in the community and being of service to others are all really great things that help me with the post-acutes. So yeah, well,
Mike.
Yeah,
we got one right now, right? I just dropped the link.
I was just gonna say, perfect segue. It is meeting time. So yeah, our 8 p.m. Eastern meeting is kicking off right now. So we'll wrap up this live so that we can hop into the meeting. But anybody that enjoyed this episode, if you're going through PAWS right now, you're not failing, you're healing. It's rough, but it's a sign that your brain is rewiring itself. It's getting back to normal, and every wave that you survive, you're coming up on just another victory, and it's something that you're going to overcome and keep growing and healing. So come check us out, kratomquitters.com. You can join a meeting, you can drop into the Signal chat, and you can be a part of this amazing community and know that there is a way out. So subscribe for more episodes. Please drop a comment, share it with somebody that might be struggling, and let them know that there is this community here to support at kratomquitters.com. So
Shout out to Ramy. Sorry. Shout out to Ramy.
Shout out to Ramy. He's hosting the meeting.
This is going to be awful, full of positivity. Just saying.
We like to keep it positive here in the Ramy meetings. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for being a part of the live stream. Again, we will be back next week. I think we're going to be doing an episode soon on the feel freeze and the sort of a bit of the history of kind of how Kratom became so mainstream over the past 5 years. And then also we will have an episode coming up where we discuss the current changing legal status of 7.0 and Kratom. So you won't want to miss those. Again, make sure you gently press the subscribe button, gently click the notification bell next to it. Do not smash it. Be gentle. And comment below. That really helps the algorithm. Share it out, save it to a playlist, all that fun stuff. So awesome. Thank you, everybody. I love you guys. Have a good one. kratomquitters.com.